Malaysia welcome for Amway co-chairman. A big hand to welcome on stage the devos.
Wow, what a great day we have had. Isn't it spectacular? Yeah, magnificent. As I hear the scientists, and fabulous job, both of you. I mean, just really, really well done. Isn't it amazing the support we have for this business? The research, the science, the professional people that are behind all of us. It reminds me, I was in Ada once years ago, and we had a group of dignitaries that we were showing through the facilities, and we went to the research and development area, and the scientists were talking about the equipment they have, and they said this equipment is so advanced. There's only 2 pieces of equipment like this in the United States. One is at one of the most prestigious research institutions in the U.S., and the second one was at Amway. And I went, yeah, really? I mean, I was shocked. Isn't that wonderful? So my first thought was, I can't believe that we have pieces of equipment like that here. That's amazing. And then my second thought was, that must be really expensive. I said, who approved that? Where'd that come from? But I think what you've seen and what you know in the Amway business is that we invest in our science. We invest in getting you the best products that you can have, and we've been doing it from the beginning. Right? And so when we talk about health goals, whether they're personal or whether we want to impact this nation and the world around us, we mean it. We mean it because we have the capabilities inside this business to be able to give you the products you need. And the best part about it is that you have the capabilities to make a difference in this world. Remember that. So as we bring all these ideas together here this afternoon, I just want to kind of narrow it down to a few things, hopefully for you to take away. Because we've had a lot of information that's come our way. But when we bring the simple things down in Amway, if we're going to be successful, it's all about you. Because you are the people that interact with the marketplace. You are the people that build your business and that make Amway what it is today. It's up to you to move our business forward. Now, I heard somewhere today that we're celebrating 50 years in Amway Malaysia. Is that a secret, or is that pretty well known? Is everybody familiar with that? So we're going to have a 50-year celebration next year. Michael's going to be here to cheer for everybody, and we're going to have a great time together, right? But the key element of the last 50 years and the next 50 years is you. And it's always been that way. And in Amway, it will always be that way. Because the relationships that we have together are the key. And the business model that we have is that this is your future and your business. We are here to support you. We are here to create that business opportunity. And I want to go just a touch deeper with a couple things that Michael talked about. When he talked about our right to win, and you talked about the founders' fundamentals and the values, they are attractive. And those principles and those ideas are attractive because they're true. They're powerful. And they're attractive because of you. Because when you live them, people will see they're real. And people will see in ways that they maybe didn't expect before that there are a group of people who believe these sorts of ideas and they're willing to put their beliefs into action. And sometimes that takes risk, and a lot of times that takes guts, right? And I'm not meaning gut health. I just mean, fortitude, right? Strength in that sense. But I want to dive down a little bit more on the business opportunity side of what makes us successful. Because if we had the products alone, we wouldn't be able to win in the marketplace the way that we can. As Michael talks about it, it's the combination that we have together. And I want to dig down into the business opportunity, because having a business that is able to deliver these products to help people in the marketplace is critical. Because it's one thing to have the product, it's another thing to have people who are a product of the product. As we heard just recently, it's not just the product, you need to show it. You need to be the example. And when Dr. Sam says that, he means it. And it's vital for all of us to go forward. So having the business connected to it is critical to achieving our goal of impacting the health crisis that we're facing in Malaysia, and indeed the health challenges that we're facing in markets all over the world. But it's going to come back to you and setting your goals for your business, in my opinion, because that's the piece of the combination of all of this that's the critical element. So I want to dive just a little deeper on the founder's fundamentals of freedom. We've talked about freedom, family, hope, and reward. I'm going to dive into freedom and just illustrate a bit more about how Richard J. felt about that, because freedom had two components to it. It was about personal freedom. It was about your ability to do the things that you wanted to do in your life, but it was also about economic freedom, about the ability for you to have a business of your own. And with that business of your own, you have a platform and you have the ability to impact others for good. Think about that. Think about the opportunity you have with this business, because you're not trying to take away things from other people. You're trying to share and connect with other people. That's the brilliance of the Amway business. Do you know that we do not have a limit on how many diamonds we can have in Amway? Just so you know, I don't know if we're going to have to get more, bigger hotels in London for A70 or not, Michael. We might have to do that. But I want you to know, I want you to know that there's no limit to how many people can be successful. The only limit is how many people are you going to talk to? How many people are you going to demonstrate that this business works? How many people for whom are you going to be the example of leadership that they can look to? That's the difference. And when Dad and Jay talked about freedom, the idea of having a business of your own, of economic freedom, of the idea of free enterprise, where you can take your talents, your gifts, your guts, and turn it into something positive that not only helps yourself, but can help other people as well. As we've looked at photos of the headquarter building, some of you, if you visited there, you know that in front of the World Headquarters building is a beautiful flag promenade where we display flags from all the countries around the world in which we operate. Inside that flag promenade are what we call the 10 pillars of economic wisdom. Now, I want to dive in this a little deeper with you, because those pillars came from the World's Fair that was held in New York in 1964. And there was the World's Fair in New York, there was the Hall of Free Enterprise. And each of the pillars in front of the Hall of Free Enterprise were held up by these pillars, these principles of free enterprise and of economic success. And you have to go back another 30 years into the 1930s when they were developed. by the Education Institute of America, as I believe. I'm trying to recall exactly. But I'm not going to go through all 10 of them with you. I just want to go through the last 3 and just touch on them a little bit. The whole idea of these principles is that there's an economic system in place that works wonderfully well if we stay true to these principles. Some of you may remember my father gave a speech called Man's Material Welfare, MMW. And in the 7th or the 8th principle there, it talks about how everything we enjoy in the world, everything that we enjoy in a material sense and an economic sense, comes from 3 things. It comes from human energy, natural resources, and it comes from the tools that we can apply to the productivity of how we gain natural resources and how we apply human energy. I'm not going to go too deep in it there, but those are the 3 main elements. And you saw that in the presentations that we just saw today, didn't we? What do we have? Natural resources. We're growing these plant materials. We're creating this place here, but we don't do it. It's happening. It's nature. But then it's the human energy that's applied to it. It's the ingenuity and the creativity, the brilliance of the minds that you've seen here, and so many others of their colleagues that are working with them, that are able to think through how do we take this natural resource and turn it into something special. Well, there's the tools that you apply. It's your own human energy, but you have tools, you have research, you have microscopes, and you have other sorts of tools that you can apply that will help take us forward. And the more we have tools that will take us forward, the understanding is that tools are the only things that we can increase without limit. So if I take the example of the science example, the tools may be their technology, it may be the equipment that they use. But I'm going to take it the next day and say the tool that we have, that you can increase without limit, is the size of your business. It's the size of your thinking. It's the opportunities that you want to pursue. You yourself can be the greatest productivity help to yourself. Because if you think bigger, and if you're willing to do the work necessary, you can have a bigger business, and you can apply, and you can have a greater impact on those around you. Now, so that's kind of the second of those 3. And then the third one there at the end is it talks about economic success. It talks about productivity. It talks about impact. And it says very simply that the greatest impact that has ever been shown around the world is when economic decisions are made by millions of progress-seeking individuals. Right? Think about that. There are governments and there are businesses and there are institutions around the world where we have this tremendous temptation to look to the top and to look to the experts and to wait for them to tell us what to do. Because they're the experts. And it's not to say they're not good people in any way, shape, or form. But these principles that we have put in front of the Amway headquarters and that we have lived with our whole life is no matter how wonderful smart people are, how impactful and helpful they can be, they can never be as good for you and your future as when you are making the decisions for yourself. Right? So I want to encourage you as we embark on a journey to help 50,000 people in Malaysia. And by the way, I think that's a low number. I think we can do a lot better than that, Mike, but it's a good start. Let's get there, and then we'll set the next goal. How does that sound? All right, we can do that. Think of what we can do, because you are the ones who are making decisions for your future. You are the ones who are setting goals for yourself. You are the ones who are challenging yourself to dream big and think big. And if you can sit through a meeting like this and take all this information in, you see how the resources of this organization, demonstrated by the people of this organization, can help you achieve your goals. But none of us can do it for you. Only you can do it for yourself. So I want you to let that sink in just a little bit. Because the next 50 years are going to require a lot of work. They're going to have a whole new set of challenges that we've never faced before. And we're going to have to kind of find our way through those new sets of challenges. And there's two things that I know we can rely on. One, the Founders' Fundamentals and the Amway Values are going to be the foundation that will get us through any of those challenges, and those things will stay the same. So when we look to the next 50 years, you don't have to worry, are we going to change the Founders' Fundamentals? Are we going to go away from them? No, we're not. I can tell you that right now. We are going to strengthen those foundations. We are going to continue to learn more about how we apply them more effectively in our lives and in our business, and those will be our foundations. But the other thing is that everything else is going to have to change. We're going to have to look at the way the business operates. You're going to have to look at the way you do things, because the marketplace is always going to be changing. And we're going to have to challenge ourselves to be innovative and creative and to be aggressive, to do the things necessary to build on those foundations of our values and our principles and those Founders' Fundamentals, and yet still address the challenges and the opportunities that come in the marketplace. And the key to that is going to be you. So I just want I want to close here just with a quick story. You know, Dad and Jay were asked many, many times about the Amway business, if they ever thought it was going to get this big. And I always love their answer. They always would shake their head and they said, no, we never expected it to get this big. You know, they would kind of look at us and say, who would have thought it would have been as successful as it's been? They said, all we wanted to do was make enough for our families, take care of ourselves, help other people. But the main thing we did is we went to work every day. And then they would reflect on it a little bit and they'd say, well, we didn't just go to work every day. We went to work every day with a mindset that we were going to do something today to make the business better. And if we made the business better, then the business would be bigger. And then the next day they would go in and they'd say, what can we do to make the business better? And if they would make it better, it would be bigger. And then the next day they would go in and repeat the process, and you get the idea. What are you going to do to make the business better for you, for your downline, for your customers, for the people around you that are watching you, for your family? What are you going to do? Because there's something special. You know it and I know it about this business. There's something unique that you can't quite put a finger on. Many years ago, in very early stages of the Amway business, Amway was just kind of starting to grow and starting to gain a little visibility and notoriety. And there was a guy who wanted to come see Dad and Jay. He was from a big company, a big chemical company in the United States at that time, called Grace Chemical Company. And the CEO and the owner of that company was a gentleman named Peter Grace, and it was a very well-known industrialist, very strong business. And they sent somebody to talk to Jay and to Rich because they wanted to buy Amway. They wanted to buy the company. They thought it was a good company. It would be a nice acquisition for them and their business. Now, Dad and Jay never had an idea of selling the company. They never wanted. That's not in our vocabulary. But they were kind of young. Business was going good. They said, well, let's listen to him and see what he has to say. See what somebody else thinks this business is worth, you know. And so the guy gave his own presentation, and Dad and Jay were very kind and very gracious and said, no, we're not going to sell the company. We built this business. This is what we always wanted. And the gentleman said, well, I expected that. A lot of people in your position would say that. But I just want you to know, we're a big company. And if you don't sell to us, we're going to compete with you. We've got somebody who we know how to make these products. We have somebody who understands direct selling, and we're going to compete with you. And my father went to the back, grabbed an Amway sales kit, gave it to him, and said, well, if you're going to compete with us, you better well do it right. Here's everything we do. Here's how we do it. Here's the whole kit. Take it home with you. That's what we got. Good luck. Well, they didn't hear from this gentleman again. He went away. But the company did start a company called Grace Home Products. They started a competing business with Amway. They made similar home care products to what we had in those days, and they started down to compete with us. And it took them about 2 or 3 years before they went out of business. And Dad and Jay just kind of kept that in the back of their mind. About 10 years into the future, Rich was in an airport, and he saw Peter Grace, the CEO and owner of this big company. And he went up to him. He couldn't resist it. I could just see my dad doing this too. He couldn't resist it. He went up to him and introduced himself and told him what he was doing. And Peter Grace looked at him and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, Amway. I've heard of Amway." And my dad said, "Well, you sent a guy to try to buy us, you know." He goes, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did." And Dad said, "Don't you remember you started a company called Grace Home Products to compete with us?" And then he got serious. He goes, "Yeah, you're right. We did that." And Rich said, "So whatever happened to Grace Home Products?" He couldn't help himself, right? And Peter Grace said, "Well, you know very well what happened to that. That business went bankrupt." And of course, Dad did know, but he was, playing the game. And Dad looked at him and said, "How can that be? We gave you the kit and everything." And Peter Grace was a relatively big man, large man. He bent over and put his finger in my father's chest. And he said, "Well, young man, you must have left something out." Right? All the things that we did with Amway were in that kit. A few products, business manual, sales plan. But the reality is, we did leave something out. And that's you. You are the magic. This business is not just about a manual. And as important and as valuable as the products are, it's not just about the products because they don't sell themselves. This business is about you. We celebrate 50 years because of the things that you have done to bring us to this place. And we're excited about the next 50 years because we know the things that you are going to do to take us into the future. And it's our job, and it's our work, and it's our passion, and it's our love to have the opportunity to be part of this business with you. And when we look at the next 50 years, it's kind of hard for somebody my age. I go, wow, the next 50 years, that's going to be a long time. Now, you'll notice that there's 2 people in this audience who came with us who are a little bit younger than us and who are looking at the next 50 years a little bit differently. That's Aaron Van Andel and Sam Gady. Right? And I bet there's a few of you in this audience who, like me, are going, next 50 years, I'm not so sure. But I know there's others of you in this audience that said, next 50 years, bring it on. Bring it on. Let's go. course, all joking aside, since we're all taking neutral, like we're probably all going to be here for the next 50 years anyway, but that's a different thing. The key, the important part for me, is that you see yourself in the next 50 years. That you see your future in this business. That you see that you can create something for yourself. That you can bring that to life, that founder's fundamental of freedom. That's both free enterprise and personal freedom. The things that Jay and Rich talked about all the time. And that in those next 50 years, you have the opportunity to set your goals, dream your dreams, do your work, but you'll never be alone in doing it. In the next 50 years, you have a chance to lead and to bring people forward, but you have the support and the surroundings of doing it in a business and with people that are thinking the same way that you are thinking and encouraging you in the same way that you are going to encourage others. So as we look to this next 50 years and we look to the time ahead, we can look forward to it with great confidence. And we can look forward to it with great anticipation. And we can look forward to working together to achieve things we never thought possible. If you would have gone back 50 years ago today, and you would have said in the early people who were there, those 5 employees, that early handful of leaders, do you think Amway Malaysia would be where it is today? Boy, I don't know if many of them would say, oh, I know how it's going to be. It's going to look exactly like it is. Probably not that many. But my guess is it's a lot better than they dreamed. My guess is we tend to limit ourselves by our own thinking. So I want to encourage you to expand your thinking, to expand your horizons, to think about the input or the impact that Mike and Jason put up before us today at the beginning. When there's a nation facing a crisis, we can be part of the solution. We can have an impact. You can have an impact. And I'm excited about looking at this next 50 years. I'm excited about looking at the next 12 months, the next 24 months, the next 5 years. I'm excited about it all. Because I know that we are going to build a great future, and we're going to build it together. Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, give me that for Coach Evan. Make some noise and show your love. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Doug and all our speakers another big round of applause. Thank you. We are all set to go forward and empower 50,000 lives and beyond. But right now,